It's now 6 o'clock, and we'll call the Monteagle City Council meeting to order. Today is August the 16th, 2021. It is rescheduled from the July the 26th, 2021. We will begin with prayer. Paul, would you lead us in the prayer, please? Would everyone please stand?
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we thank you for today, and thank you, Father, for those that represent us here at the city, and we ask, Father, that we would be able to work with each other and help each other, to help our community grow, and to help our community become one. Thank you for everything that you've given to us. Continue to bless us and forgive us. It's in your Son's precious name we pray. Amen.
Jared, will you lead us in the prayer, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we have the approval of minutes from June the 28th, 2021, which is in your packet. If you had a chance to review those, Council.
Yes, I move that we approve the minutes as they were read.
I will second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor? Opposed? The next, we will have a police report. Jerry?
Just real quick, I want to introduce you to two new guys. I have another one to introduce you in about 2 weeks. This is JD, Jeremiah Dallas. He's from Bradley County. This is Jacob Durham. They're the ones getting all the drugs off the street. So they're kind of the ones y'all are complaining about. Kind of the ones but they've gotten, I think last week alone, they got over 40 grams of meth.
Awesome.
The month, we did the 26th to the 26th. I didn't do this one to mid-July, but we had 15 arrests, 12 of them were drug arrests, 2 DUIs, 1 domestic. 4 of them, we got guns, we've compensated, and we're in the process of seizing a vehicle from a drug bust. And we're working on other things. I just can't say it definitely in this meeting right now. So, Mr. Malou.
Greg is also working, we're going to come up with an unofficial title for Mr. Malouf. He's volunteering to work with the fire department, police department to help with their policies and procedures, and we actually met today about grant money and just several other things. So we do appreciate Greg and him and Jared are working a lot together too. So.
Glad to do it. My report is dated July 26th. I'm treating this as the July meeting. I'll have an August report at the August 30th Mayor Alderman meeting. Chief Nunley and I have been seeking solutions to several department shortages of equipment and personnel. We ask for a motion to authorize the purchase of 2 used police vehicles at a total cost not to exceed $25,000. This will help meet our requirements. We are auctioning 1 vehicle, the 2010 Dodge Charger, with proceeds being applied to these purchases. We understand budget amendments will address the police department requests, which will be presented under new business. So I won't go into any more detail on that. As information prior to asking for the following motion, I have contacted Mid-Tennessee Natural Gas Company to ensure there will be an adequate supply of natural gas to simultaneously supply the generator and heating system. I have verified the heating system requirements with a HVAC contractor, and you should also know there's a donation pledge of $3,000 to be applied to this project, specifically buying the generator. Therefore, we ask for a motion to authorize the purchase and installation of a 20 kW kilowatt, three-phase Generac commercial standby air-cooled generator and a Generac 200 amp three-phase transfer switch at a cost of $6,900. The generator will be installed at the rear of the building. I'm breaking this out. I'll ask for a second motion, but in conferring with the mayor, it's better if we do two, because one may be paid for out of one account and other work may be done for the other. So this is for the purchase of that, unless you want me to introduce both motions.
Well, since we're getting a donation on one, I think it's better that when you clarified that we were getting a donation on the generator only, and then the other is a maintenance product. So we need to probably take them separately, you know, because that's how the person. I
Okay,
think,
that's why I've prepared the request for two motions. So
Yes.
if somebody would make a motion.
So motion one would be Greg. So
To purchase the 20 kW three-phase commercial standby air-cooled generator and the transfer switch that goes with that at a cost of $6,900.
Okay. And this will be a backup for everything that's in the police department, correct?
Yes.
It was supposed to have been there, you said, a while back, and
Years
you were
ago.
getting it there, and you were also getting it wired for that. So
Yes.
we have a motion for,
So this will come out of machinery and equipment, out of the police operating budget?
yeah.
I'm calling it a capital improvement or a capital purchase. I don't know, whatever your bookkeeping is.
Well, we have our accountant here with us tonight, which we're gonna introduce her later, as far as which would you say we need to take this out of?
It could be a capital.
We have 10,000 in the machinery and equipment line item for the police. So
Yeah.
there's enough money in there. So I
Well,
guess I'm
then
asking, you don't think this is a good use of equipment and machinery budget out of your $10,000 budget?
Well, only because with budgets, we have to make it to June 30th, so I don't know, but there are other things I'm sure that'll come up that may fit in that line item. And if not, maybe there are year-end closings or whatever accounting procedures are done.
Use machinery and equipment.
Take it out
Well,
of
you
capital.
could do that at 69, and then we're gonna get 3,000 donated back, but we also have now got to upgrade the building, so we're gonna have to do that up something else.
Yeah, there's a second motion to come, but I think it's probably best to call it capital for depreciation, et cetera, et cetera.
So, I mean, they have to have a generator at some point.
Yeah, so my preference would be to take it out of the operating budget, and then if we run out of operating budget at the end of the budget year, we can hit the capital expense, but the
Well-
only thing we budgeted out of capital expense this year was paving.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm good either way, however y'all wanna do it, we've gotta have a generator.
I think capital would be better in speaking with Debbie and just knowing, because it's a sizable item and it has a life and it meets, I think, the old IRS requirements that I knew of a capital expenditure.
And this is our CPA that we work with
Oh,
monthly.
hi.
This is, we were gonna introduce to her, so which would you recommend if we do out of an equipment?
It's not gonna make it.
It doesn't,
It's six or half a dozen.
it is a capital expense. If it comes out of the operating budget, then we're operating off our budget lines. We can always add from capital expense back into the police budget if we need to later, if we run out of
Yeah,
money.
and I'm
But
good
there's
with
another
it.
3,800 coming once you pass this motion. So
So we
that's
would
why we do it
actually-
one at a time, and my thought was we would do capital fund this from this one. But
Yeah, well, you're not gonna have enough money to do them both. You're gonna be over $700, right, if you do it tonight?
Well, it's, we get 3,000 coming back.
Yeah,
in
but
as a
we,
donation.
you can't do it based on that, can you? We have to do the total of the 6,900 regardless, and then when we,
3,000 is gonna be as a revenue.
yeah, so we can't deduct the 3 from it, that's the reason you have to separate them out. So you're gonna be 10,700 if you do both of them out of equipment, so you're gonna have to amend the budget to do that.
Well, this was a question, I'm sorry to tie things up, but Greg and I actually had this conversation the other day about whether we can, and since the accountants are here, I'll ask that. Can we overdraw a budget to keep our accounting straight and then fix it with a budget amendment later? Or would we, that's
We're doing amendments.
after the fact? So we could take all this out of repairs and maintenance, or machinery and equipment, even though it overdraws that account on the line item, and just fix it with a budget amendment later?
Well, you're supposed to amend it first.
Yeah, you know, you can, but you get, no, I wouldn't recommend
You
that.
amend it first, that was my question.
No.
Okay.
That's like having an overdraft account, you don't wanna continue doing that, it's not a good practice.
Right.
So,
Yeah, some accountants.
Yeah.
University do it all the time.
Well, y'all at the university, y'all got big bucks. We don't have big bucks here. Smoking's a little different than we are,
You
so,
just fix it later.
yeah, wait.
So does it matter if we make a motion?
We're gonna have to do
about
one,
it tonight?
yeah, tonight it does matter, because we're gonna go over.
Is
See.
it better for the 69 come out of capital and then take the 38
Out of equipment.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
when
just
you
asking a
do
question.
two
I'm
things.
learning.
Okay, so, but somebody,
I will make a motion that we get the generator and take it out of capital fund
Thank you, in the amount of $6,900.
in the amount of $6,900.
Dollars.
do we have a second? Okay, any other discussion? All in favor?
We also ask now for a motion to provide and install all necessary electrical service to accommodate the installation of the generator and transfer switch at a cost of $3,800. And as you know, a little bit of history, you probably all know this, so forgive me. It was a building that had prior occupants. One was a bank, one was a law office. To make the generator pick up what we wanted to pick up, we have two 3-phase panels in the electrical closet. And we're going to combine that onto one and tell the generator this is the one you supply. So we're going to kill some, check circuits on some, and put everything on one circuit breaker panel for the generator and the transfer switch, if that makes sense. You all with me? I'm sorry?
3,800. And that'll come out of the.
3,800. And licensed electricians, bonded, licensed, all of
It
that.
helps to be able to plug the generator up, right?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
That works.
I'll make a motion to get the electrical done at $3,800 to come out of equipment and machinery.
On the police budget.
Whatever category you have in the operating account, I would
And the
imagine.
police budget.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So, now.
Thank you. Is that it?
Do you want to go ahead and address the ordinance for the officer and for why you got you up here? I know we go, sometimes bounce back and forth, thank God we can.
Well,
So-
no, there's, I understand there are budget amendments to address the
But we
police
have
matters.
to, we have to address this here, and we'll
Oh.
have to have two different readings on the ordinance to be
Okay.
able, we will be amending before we do anything, but let's address the need there, what we're trying to do here, while we're doing it, and how much it is. Let's go ahead and address it while we're.
Okay. Well, there are a couple of issues here.
Okay,
First of all, there's retroactive pay to an officer that he's entitled to based on his promotion, and that goes back to the date of promotion. So that's one item. I'm sorry?
Date would be 11.
Oh, the 11th of August? August 11th.
and the promotion was to, what was his title, Jerry?
You start.
Sergeant.
You go from patrol to sergeant.
Okay.
Then there was the item of hiring another police officer for patrol, and that is also covered, I hope.
Is that the one that's, from a part-time converting it to full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
So you already had a part-time position, and you said that you couldn't get the hiring, and because of the activity and, to clean up the streets and keep people patrolling in the neighborhoods and the drugs, it was discussed, the way, fund another full-time position, but we'd have to amend the budget for that.
So where's that coming from? Just curiosity. Where we pulling that out?
It has to come out of general funds, doesn't it? It's coming out of general funds, we'll have to,
So
so,
it'll come out of the operating balance for the general.
you know, question that.
Yeah, I have a question for the accountant, and while everybody's here, maybe everybody's curious about it. Curious about guidelines on what sort of operating balance we should be maintaining as a municipality of our size. Where are we in terms
Are
of?
you talking about a fund balance?
Yeah, the general
Yeah,
fund balance.
The fund balance.
There aren't
What's a
operating
healthy, what would be a healthy fund balance? I know at one time we had that, was discussed whenever you all did it before, but I can't remember what it was.
I've seen it where, they were able to operate, nothing came in a year's budget. Or I've seen it 2 or 3 years budget, you know.
So does TML have guidelines?
We were told today when we met with Beth Jones about the grants, the federal and state grants, that they need at least 4 months is what usually the comptroller requires to have a 4-month operating budget. So let's say 400,000 all the time retained in your general funds to be able to keep functioning. Now that's not your water and sewer because that's totally different.
Sure.
But that's the number they gave us today, wasn't it? So would you not say that usually she says,
Yeah, when you say 4 months, it's like which 4 months? If you're talking about, when you're collecting property tax, it can be really.
well, we don't have property tax, so,
Yeah,
but,
that's true.
yeah. So, but I mean, usually an average is probably high. It's probably a little bit high, but still 4 months is what they said today, like the quarter of the year. So if you maintain,
So for us, that's in the 400,000 range?
probably,
Okay.
when you say Dale, close to it, it's something, probably a little bit lower than that, but it's, let it be high anyway.
So we look like we're doing okay?
Well, that's, we are doing okay, but then we know, we're not gonna become a ticket trap, but the more officers that are out there are gonna be working, and they're gonna be addressing with their sons and their compliance issues, and they will be generating some money, you know.
So what would be the motion on?
Well, actually, we're going to address that now, and then come back to the ordinance and amending our budget, because we have to amend the budget too. So it's a process, but that way we don't have to keep calling back and forwards up here, unless you have additional questions for them. Now, with that, you had 2 cars.
Yeah, there's another item, the 2 cars,
Okay.
at a cost not to exceed, I think it was 22 or 25,000.
What are the 2 cars? Let's go ahead and address that, so we've got that for record, because I know it was a really good deal, and
It
it's
was
through
a
the
good-
government.
What were the 2 cars?
Yeah, 2 Ford Explorers. One has 77,000 miles on it, the other one has 80,000. And both of them will not be more than, I think it's 22 or 22.5. I got the numbers in my office, I just did 22. Okay.
Didn't you say these are fully loaded with the police
they're
packages
ready
that
to
you
go.
need? There's
They're ready to
nothing you
go.
have to add to besides the lettering? Is that correct?
Just striping and put a radio in it,
Okay.
ready to
So,
go.
which normally have this additional cost. So those are the half, part-time into full-time, and then the 2 vehicles, and then the dollar raise to the sergeant that is retro that he promoted that we did not address at the last meeting. Is that correct, Greg?
Yeah, was there anything else for equipment like that? Those were the items that we hope the budget amendment addresses. I will say this now with my citizen hat on, there's been more of a police presence I've noticed on the streets and around day and night, and it seems that they're enjoying a pretty good arrest record of various and sundry substances and crimes. So I think this is a wise investment for the police department. And I mean that very sincerely. They'll give me a ticket anyway if I speed, but I think you should be aware that there's real need, and we're fulfilling that need, and I personally, as a citizen, thank the mayor and alderman for that.
And something that you brought stress to us in our workshop was no officer needs to be out there by himself in our town.
Oh, absolutely.
And that was another reason to ensure that we had 2 officers on duty all the time. So that when we have people that sometimes run from places,
Yeah.
that we got support, is that right? So, I mean, you know, that way that was one of the reasons you stressed that we need those.
So that would give us 2 full-time during the day, plus you full-time, and 2 full-time at night.
Yeah. Any other questions for the police department?
No, but I don't want to pass over a while ago when we were talking about the drug bust and stuff. You guys, pat on the back, kudos to you, you're doing awesome.
And that's what we want to eliminate in this town as best as we can. You know, you can be known, you can't do it here, and you know, and you've talked to me numerous times, we're going to do that regardless of who it is, you know, because it just don't happen, it shouldn't be happening, you know.
Okay, because I'm still standing, I have, following the agenda, I have
Okay.
one more sermon on the mountain. Do what?
The payroll ordinance is up behind you, so that everybody else can.
Oh, okay.
Well, I think, do we want to go to the fire department, is that in that one too? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, Glenn, Greg, are you wearing the fire department hat?
This is, now what?
Or is that
Fire
the-
department. This
This person.
Nate just told me this is personnel for the police department. Just so, we know what happened.
But we have an ordinance, we have to amend, Nate. Do you want to do those in the order that they're in down here? And we can go back to that. We're just
Okay,
covering
well, that was
information.
just for information. If you
Okay.
still go back to fire and police.
Yeah, let's go back
Yeah.
to fire department now, Greg.
Okay,
Don't, nobody get dizzy and fall over on that sort of thing. And it's all level. If you think it's crooked, it's you.
this is,
Maybe they need the sobriety test.
you will note that on this month's department report, there were no fire response comments. We have tabled all matters except for review and updating our policies and procedures and what I present tonight. The department's policies and procedures in your packet are submitted as a resolution, so they may be approved with one reading. Also, there's the amendment sentence. This is kind of a formal draft, or not a draft, just something to start with, but there's a lot more to be added in different phases of firefighting. This is just basic housekeeping right now for policies and procedures. There's also pre-fire responses that you do, is who has what trucks and what trucks go and that sort of thing. But right now, this is just phase one of policies and procedures.
And I apologize, those of you in the crowd, I don't have this digitally. But it's a standard operating procedure for firefighters. It's all things that you would want firefighters to either do or not.
And I think you used the L, policies and procedures, to help draft that as well, didn't you?
Yes, there's that, and I have learned of some other sources that I can contact. So it's a work in progress, but we had to start somewhere.
Right. And today, I think Beth gave you some more
She
sources
did
that
indeed.
you could use for that,
Uh-huh.
with MTS and some other things that he could draw off of while they're developing the policies and procedures for the department. We've got to start somewhere. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's some neat things in here. I really like the chief or his designee shall keep accurate records of all expenses. The chief or his designee shall file an appropriate insurance claim for all fire calls. So this is new and good stuff to have this operating procedure.
Well, I tried to pick up on comments, what makes sense to do, who's going to do it anyway, that knows the lingo. You don't just say, send me a check, as you know. So there are certain documents that are approved rates that we submit to the insurance companies.
And it's not all about money, but it costs money to keep the department going, and something we realized talking to Beth Jones today when we were looking at for funding. Even with Lip Assist, if they're gonna do that, they can bill Medicare probably for it, because it's taking time, money for those folks to go out there, and we don't pay, well, I think we pay for a call, but that's a minimum amount, but still it adds up over a period of time. So there are a lot of things we can actually bill for that the insurance will cover, not the individual, or not. And I know Greg and I were talking about it with Beth Jones today.
Yes, and we started that insurance part for homeowners, if it's in the homeowner's insurance policy, and some insurance people have told me it's almost in every policy. Now that's a broad, general, no meaning sentence, but it's in there somewhere, so we're exploring all that we can explore.
Well, the next one down the line, I'm just trying to keep everybody out there informed. The chief or his designee shall request a fire evacuation plan for all commercial and non-resident structures, copies of which will be distributed as appropriate. So again, thinking back to the smokehouse fire, that would allow us, were that to happen again, to be one leg up, to have, and give somebody the job of making sure that those evacuation plans are up to date and the fire department is, so I think it's great.
Well, now that you mention it, that was something I was just going to ask permission on or just give information on, but my past experiences, which are very limited, the fire department would send out a letter saying, what's your fire exit plan? And it's up to the institution to submit it. I think it's fine that a representative of the department just look at it for common sense. You know, if that door is locked, maybe we need to have a way to unlock it at certain times, or whatever the scenario, but it should be reviewed by department personnel because we know where to go. One example is the school has all their water connections at the rear of the building. So that's where the fire trucks will be, et cetera, et cetera. So we just want to look at different plans and try to get some kind of basic letter out to please submit your fire exit plans to commercial buildings.
So do you, since this is a draft, we've already got policies and procedures, do you want to wait till August 30th and see if there's anything you want to add from MTS?
Sure, like I say, it's an ongoing project. It's whatever you all want to do. I just want to start somewhere with something.
And I think the one thing that Beth Jones mentioned today that we probably need to include in that report is a monthly water usage report. Because she was talking to us about after you left, that because
Oh.
John and them have not got a report, whenever they fill tanks or use water, to get at least an estimate so they know what's going to the, and we could probably add that on the report.
Okay.
But it's a really good job putting this back together, Greg.
I'm sorry?
I said it's a really good job. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. But it's a work in progress. That's not the
I think
final
we all are
document.
work in progress, sir. So council,
Okay, go ahead.
what to, well, no, and we can actually, once it becomes, we'll have the attorney review it, of course, to make sure it's as we have in the past. But once that we get a more substantial document, he can just keep it updated, and then we'll have the attorney review it, and then we can make it part of the policies and procedures.
We're not ready to act on it tonight.
No.
Okay, I didn't know how you wanted to proceed. I wanted to get something started. If you want to wait for more
Yeah.
descriptions or verbiage, then that's fine. Okay, continue.
Yes, sir.
The town and Monteagle Volunteer Fire Department are focused on auctioning or selling vehicles that are beyond their useful date of service. You may recall that in my previous reports to you, one truck is beyond repair of pump and transmission failures. It is a 1998 truck that, in my opinion and that of others, it would not be prudent to spend $20,000+ to repair an aged vehicle with no guarantee that there would not be other costly failures. It is the adage of good money after bad. Those funds could be applied to the purchase currently under discussion. These proceeds are to be dedicated to the purchase of a new used rescue pumper, which, in addition to our existing truck, should satisfy the rescue and firefighting requirements of the town. We are presently in the process of obtaining bids for the truck as well as formulating a fundraising drive. We are searching for grant and or other funding possibilities. Our goal is to raise $160,000. As we investigate the various funding sources, please realize we may apply for a grant, but there is no timeline, there is no guarantee we would be awarded our request or any part thereof. The grant may be awarded, but the funds come later. In other words, we will explore all funding possibilities, but nothing is guaranteed. And I'm sure you're familiar with the grant process, etc. The most effective and efficient source of funds is the citizens and business of Monteagle Fire District. Indeed, it is in everyone's best interest, for obvious reasons, for everyone to contribute as much as they are able. This will improve our ISO rating, which is a direct function of our insurance premiums. Almost anything in the fire department does, training, maintain, and purchasing equipment, vehicle purchase and testing, does contribute to our rating. We ask for appropriate motions if required to move forward in these areas. And then I'll just go on. We also ask for a motion to be made to authorize the inspection and maintenance of all fire hydrants in the Monteagle Fire District at a cost not to exceed $3,500. This cost does not include purchases of new hydrants. Hydrant maintenance is very important in firefighting. That's where the water comes out. But it's not just opening it up and flushing it out and saying that's nice. There are flow meter tests that you do. There's paint codes that you paint the bonnet with. There's flow meter readings that you maintain, some of which will help us get that report after each fire. So fire hydrant maintenance, some have to be oiled, some have to be oiled and greased, some have to be wire brushed to get the rust off. There's a lot to going, because when you pull up, the last thing you want to do is wrestle with a hydrant, in my humble opinion. So that's why we put hydrant maintenance in today's report. So whatever motions are appropriate for all of this, the letter for fundraising, or however you want to proceed, Your Honor.
Well, you have, Greg is working with John, which is their utility manager. As far as the fire hydrants, he and I are working together to get that completed, correct?
Yes, John Connor's been very helpful. He got the maps for us. We're locating where the hydrants are instead of just driving around town. And then we'll start the procedure. We have training scheduled with some folks that have done this before at no cost to the town or the fire department. But we will need the 3,500 is to a little bit of extra, and however you want to do the bookkeeping, to those that go out there. Because when you go out, you do some work at each hydrant.
When you say you go out, who's going to be doing that? That's what I'm saying, is it contracted
Oh,
out?
no.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Contracting out, I understand the town did it in the area, and it was something like $30,000+. So if we have someone that knows this business, which we do have in the department, and if we have someone going with him as a trainee type of thing, you don't need more than 2 per hydrant.
But
And
how
some
would
can
we
be done.
pay, are we paying this person $3,500? That's what I'm saying, where's the $3,500?
No, I'm sorry, it would be probably at a cost not to exceed $10 an hour.
So we're paying, are we contracting that out with the person?
Well, no, just whoever can make it, however they grab their volunteers, because it has to be an ongoing project. Now, I didn't think
now
we're in a
it's-
position to
Yes,
contract
yes.
though.
This is gonna present a problem. Will it present a problem if they exceed the 650 on the contract labor? That's what I'm saying, we don't wanna create a problem because these are volunteers. Now, some of them will have to go on payroll if they're employees, right? Because remember the issue we just got into?
This would go on payroll.
So it'd just be contract. Would it be handled as contract labor? Unless they were an employee in the fire department doing it.
We can take it out of fire calls if it's firemen.
That was gonna be my suggestion.
That's what I'm saying.
Oh, it'll be firemen, absolutely, it'll be
We
firemen.
just
We don't
do
have a
phone
map.
calls.
Yeah, we don't have a maximum that we can pay the fire department.
Well,
Keep
they'll
those
exceed
contract
their,
workers.
they can exceed their budget amount, but, yeah, but they'll get a 1099 for it.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
Travis and I touched base on this a little bit. I mean, the last year, there was several thousand left over in the fire calls budget anyway. And if this is a way for our volunteer firefighters to get to know the fire hydrants better, know their locations, and know their function, it seems like a great way if we could give our volunteer firefighters some extra stipend to do this practice every year.
So that's just what we're saying, and they'll be handled as a contractor. That's what, and so they're just gonna, somebody will have to keep up with their schedule and their hours on,
Oh yeah, we have to record the flow meter readings and what color paint and all sorts of things.
he said 10, didn't he say 10 an hour for it?
Yes,
That's what I thought you said, so, okay.
we didn't want to pay the same as a fire call. It's a volunteer department.
I think
We're
the
doing it
fire
for our
call
own
is now
education, as Nate
15.
said, for ourselves. What?
A fire call's now 15,
Right, so we did not want to go that high.
okay, I thought you said the same.
It was kind of a stipend, kind of thank you.
Back to maybe Marilyn and the budget people, do we actually, we don't approve each fire call, they go
No.
on their own fire calls.
So-
Do we need to approve them paying, do we need to just create a process to have them pay $10 an hour to volunteer firefighters to test the fire hydrants annually? So that this is something that they can begin to do?
Done.
We're gonna look at you again, should we create a process to deal with this, or just let them handle it like their fire calls? How do we need to,
Do you have an estimate of how many you will do a year? Is it gonna exceed?
it's every
3,500, you said.
hundred.
We have 101 hydrants in the fire district.
And how
The
many will
assembly-
you do annually?
I know, well, to get started, because as you know, we're in a catch-up mode, I'd like to do all of them as soon as possible. After that, depending on the flow meters and the results, the flow readings and the results, maybe we can do, just as an example, 6 a year, or 20 a year, or, some schedule down the road.
And how long will it take to do each one?
It depends on the hydrant. If there's, and that's what I mean by maintenance, because some need to be greased, some need to be oiled, some need both. And of course, you have that piston that goes into the ground that lets the water up. So if there are major repairs, you'll need a hydrant repairman, and then that's beyond us. That's why I put this proposal did not include a new hydrant. If some hydrant is beyond repair, we may need a new one or a new used one or whatever.
So can they not just use 3,500 of their fire call, not to exceed 3,500?
We authorize the chief to
Yeah,
do this.
we authorize him to use 3,500 per this process of 101 meters this year, and our fire hydrants this year, and him not to exceed that amount. Now, if they get
Okay.
it done,
Ever how he works it out.
yeah, but I mean, he's already got the money in his budget, so.
Well, that's fine, as long as this is as much information as it is seeking approval.
And then next year, it sounds like it'll be less because we'll just be sampling some sub-sample.
Yes, there'll be a schedule then, and this will all be entered, because we have to keep track of that for ISO ratings as well. If ISO comes up and says, what is it, then we have something to show them.
So during the budget process next year, we can have some idea of, okay, now we think we're gonna do a third of our hydrants annually, and we think this is what it's gonna cost, and we can just add that.
I think that would work fine. The other thing, of course, is coordinating with John and the water department, because when you go flushing and get flow meter readings, you may be taking more than you want to out of the water supply. So we want to schedule that as well. Obviously, we're not going to run dry, but we have to work with the water department to see and let them know what areas we're flushing.
So do we have a motion for the fire chief or his appointed person, the assistant chief, not to exceed $3,500 out of their budgets for the process of flushing and checking the fire hydrant meters
Yes,
of 101 units?
yes.
Okay. So you got that right there. And I didn't make the motion, they just said, you made the motion.
I made the motion, what you said.
I just did it right in there. Okay, and Jessica seconded. Any other discussion? No? Jeff, all right. All in favor? Aye. You got that. Also, in your packet, you have the letter, in which has been reviewed by a couple of different folks. And as we know, we actually service a lot of areas that are not the city limits, so it's going to be sent to both businesses and people, because Mr. Malik will shortly tell you about our fire truck that he found out today in one of our meetings, but asking folks to donate and businesses to donate on the fire truck purchase that he's talking about tonight. So was there any other changes? I know the fire chief had looked at it, several other people looked at it. We had our grant person that works with us had also read it and reviewed it, and I think, did you as well, Mr. Jean? And we've had several people edit it, so that would be the letter that would be mailing out to all the folks in our district that we service. Is everyone good with the letter?
Yeah.
Okay. And we're gonna have the fire logo and the city logo put on it. So,
I would ask that, is that a separate mailing?
yeah, I think we
Instead
need-
of getting shuffled
I think
with
we
other
need to
papers?
do it as separate mailing. And
Thank you, I
also,
agree.
we have a new person in-house that, well, we had a contractor, Dale Wolfen, that was doing our website, and he's gonna be meeting with a lady that now works in the office, and she's going to be doing a lot of the stuff in-house, sometimes to put, things on the website at different times,
Mhm.
so, a few hours a week or a month. So, Miss Lynetta, so she can put the letter on there for now.
But of course, the more time we have to call our friends and neighbors,
Yeah,
would be
but
better
this is
too.
going
'Cause-
out there, but it can be online too.
Okay,
as far-
and when roughly would it go? I mean, in August?
We can get it out as soon as I can get the letterheads
Oh,
and all
fine,
that stuff.
fine.
Yeah, like,
That's good.
August for sure.
Perfect. You want me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is this the same, engine that you talked about earlier, or did that one get picked off and this is another one?
That's
That is to
another-
replace the one that's outside the firehouse.
But isn't it right? Shade Road in this is a 93. We had a lot of different people that worked on this.
There was a typo, it's a 98.
It is a 98 on this.
It is a 98.
No, it's a
Oh,
98 on this. Oh, Debbie
I'm sorry?
fixed it.
yeah. That was addressed, but it's a 98 truck that's outside the firehouse that has the PTO transmission pump problems. That was the 20,000 plus to repair. Because to do anything with a fire truck, the pump has to be certified. To get it certified needed additional monies that took us to the 20,000. Now what?
Fire truck,
Fire truck.
yeah.
Therefore, we're operating, as you all know now, with one fire truck in town, which to everybody is unacceptable. Thank goodness we have mutual aid. We have been blessed so far with somewhat minimal calls, but you never know what the next minute brings. So, in meeting with Beth Jones and the mayor this morning, and I think you have an ordinance to cover it, we can go ahead, and correct me if I'm wrong or I misunderstood, please, Mayor. We can go ahead and purchase a truck that the department has identified for approximately $140,000.
Yeah, well, what Debbie was saying, we still have to do the bids, we have the specs, we have to approve them in the budget to do
Right,
it.
right.
So But their bidding process will, and y'all got the specs for that, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So, but.
But what else did you want me to say about the truck? I mean,
Well,
once we get through all of this.
Beth wanted to meet with us this morning. She had looked for some funding she thought might have been low hanging fruit, but she said
It's
no.
not there.
Next year she's looking for a new truck, because we know both have to be
What
replaced.
model year is this new old truck?
2000.
It was 2000.
It's right.
It's 2006.
I think we sent it.
This is the one that you were talking about before though, right, Greg?
August
This is the
2006 Spartan solid grade. I'm sorry?
Same truck,
It's the same truck you were talking about before?
but the money's
Yes.
$6,000 different.
Yeah, we've only looked at the one truck that we found. We hope it's still available. It had everything we wanted. Let me
That's what I started saying.
take up a few minutes here as quickly as I can. We need a truck that holds water and foam, and therefore two separate tanks, and that's where the fire rescue label comes from. It has that. It has seating capacity for a firefighter to be in a seat and also put on his Scott air or his air pack.
But you don't
So
know if
the-
that truck is still available.
No,
And Alvin had to have stuff added to it. What was it needed to be added to it, so the reason it went to the 140 that we,
Yeah, that's the one difference between the 120 and 140.
what was the 120?
I think,
It didn't have, 120, I think, didn't include delivery or auxiliary apparatus. Last time we were talking about it, we were trying to figure out how it was gonna.
Oh, I'm
and
not
they
aware
said
of
it
that.
could be out, and they said it could be so, because they've got to get it out and spec it out. So that's the reason the ordinance, they did it for 150 just across, doesn't exceed that, but it could be less than.
Except in New York, you don't take road trip.
No, the one in New York that we're looking at that I thought was the one under discussion is the 140,000 or so, which includes delivery here.
So that's what we've got to spit it out, so.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand all of that, but I'm just trying to answer their questions as to the truck we're discussing.
So got amendments in here too, with the budget.
So the neat thing about this truck is that because it's a rescue and a pumper, it serves two needs.
Yes.
And so it's gonna allow the fire department to actually surplus two other trucks, actually three other trucks, right?
Well, what we've been talking about, would like to do, and I've mentioned it to some of you, we want to start rotating this so it's not crisis management of, oh, I need two fire trucks. So when the truck that's outside gets replaced, maybe we sell the next oldest truck. And when the new truck comes through, whenever that is, with grants and all of that, next year sometime, we may get rid of a truck that needs to go. Right now for the auction, we're only auctioning off the two, what I'm calling yellow trucks, that are in the auxiliary garage. The other truck that's a fire rescue, we have to keep to haul the equipment that the orange trucks are hauling. So that fire rescue old truck will be sold or whatever as soon as we get
If we get this.
to proper trucks.
Yeah, so really, we'll be moving from 5 pieces of rolling stock down to 2.
Well, 4. 2 yellows, the fire rescue, and the truck that's outside.
Are we keeping the truck outside? You're not selling it?
No, we want to sell it.
That's
We've
what
been
I thought.
exploring that with Brindley. Yeah, we're not keeping it at all.
And he needs to put it on the auction list. He thinks that Brentley will pay more for it, so it's getting processed from them on the fire truck.
They actually called today, though, they're not gonna buy it.
No, they're not, okay.
They won't buy, but they'll broker it for us, and they're, as I say, the largest in the southeast.
Yeah, so they may still get some more money for it.
Yeah, more than what we could get at an auction.
Yeah.
So,
So it makes sense for me in a long term, and then the next phase would be to retire our engine two, the one that's our primary right now.
Yes, the 93.
So that it gets us on a rotation where our rolling stock is less than 25 years, which again is helping our ISO ratings. It's just a matter of finding the money to buy that new truck, and this is sort of a bridge. But the fact that we can reduce our rolling stock and still meet our ISO ratings, so we're maintaining fewer trucks, seems like
so Brent,
A win-win.
a win-win for me.
okay. This is also in our amendments, in the budget amendments and the ordinance that we would have to approve the expenditure of the 150,000, not to exceed that, and that's our first reading.
So to get to the account, do we have to approve the expenditure and allocate the budget, or can we do a budget amendment once the money rolls out? How does that work?
There's a budget amendment in here to do it.
It pulls it all out of capital?
Yes. Okay. Is there,
Yeah. So I hate to be just banging on numbers all day, but, I wanna make sure that we're not, I know I made a pledge that I wanted to rebuild our capital reserves, and so I just wanna make sure we're thinking through this as we're doing this. I noticed that the fire department has 35,000 in, equipment and, repairs and maintenance together. And I talked to Travis today, and he was comfortable if we go ahead and pull 25 out of that, to have them have skin in the game. So that would leave them some money, to purchase other equipment later in the year, but it would take a big chunk out of that. And I know we got that 28,000 from the CARES Act. We can spend that on fire equipment. Am I correct on that,
No,
Marilyn?
no, because we're using it on streets, we said. The first 28, we haven't got the other money.
So we haven't budgeted that yet.
We did it for streets, because we were gonna do Little Lake, remember? So, but here's the thing, and did you talk to Garen about any of this, or just Travis?
Travis called me this morning. So
Well, I'm just saying,
working on
since
this
he's
morning.
assistant, I'd rather, since Garen's the chief, before we do that, we can always move that money back, but the amendment would have to be changed, wouldn't it, Melissa, because we've got it for 150 tonight.
Oh, no, I think we should go ahead and
Yeah,
do the
and I
amendment coming
agree
out of
with you
capital.
100%. See, what we did today, and that was another reason, Beth Jones was looking for some money she thought was left over. And she told us today, it wasn't.
It's not.
But she's prepared, there's 3 things going on for next year to start applying now. Secondly, as we know, the American Recovery Money is going to be released, and it's sort of like stimulus money and other things. There's restrictions, but there's also gonna be a one-time opportunity for it. So we're gonna be prepared to deal with that in every facet of Monteagle. And she was saying, there's also at the point, she didn't mention the water and sewer, because a lot of the work in the water, there's state revolving funds, which there's a huge, did she tell us 1.8 billion? It was a huge number of incentive money if everybody's prepared to get their money, if they're working with their infrastructure and programs. It's gonna be a one-time thing. So you're not gonna count on it, but if you're ready, you can either get funding, reduce funding, or get these incentives, which, when we did the sewer plant deal, it was what, $8 million? We got $4 million forgiven and got it at a 1.75 for interest rate. So, and then, well, you can tell them what that she said today, we can get the money if it's out there and get it done, because we have to follow through with it.
Yeah,
No, I'm in favor of pulling this money out of capital reserves, but I wanna have the conversation out loud that says, how do we get this money back out of capital reserves? So I'm gonna wanna talk about a later budget amendment that pulls it.
You get donations.
We met, I mean, we're going to the businesses, we're going to the people, we're going to the outside communities. I mean, there's Cliff Tops, there's a lot of people that are not in the city limits that we service that hopefully will be willing to donate, because the better we are, the lower their insurance rates are. So we're
well, and that's what I was going to mention, with all due respect. The sale of the vehicles that we're auctioning off, anything we get from the fundraising and everything, will be up to you to, quite frankly, pay back the reserve account or whatever you all decide with the money. But all of those funds should be dedicated, because you all know in fundraising, you can't say just give.
No.
You give to the fire truck or something.
And that's what they're
And
doing
that's,
too.
yeah.
It's very.
So therefore, to be specific, and therefore you reimburse the specific draw,
And that's
is what I envision.
You know, if we get donations for the fire truck, it's gonna go into the donations line item and into the general fund, and we need to be having the conversation to say, we're gonna take it out of the general fund and make sure it goes into capital to repay the capital expense line. And I'm just talking out loud to make sure we're all on the same page. I think we are.
You know, some people need to write up things, I don't know if they do or not, but at one time we had a donor, and Mr. Malik knows who it was, well, he walked up here and handed me a check for $75,000, that's how the 1998 truck was bought. So there are people that, you know, are willing to help the community. He didn't live even here full time, but he paid that much, so we don't know what will be, but a few dollars add up and any money adds up, so this letter's gonna be important for us to get it out. And then, of course, allocate that money back to these funds.
I'm all for it.
So was there anything else, Greg? And then we'll have to go through the protocol of budgets and approving all those
Right,
things.
and all of that comes later, I understand, under new business. But no, I have nothing now. I'm sure I'll have more come August 30th.
Okay.
But thank you all for your attention and understanding our needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Parks and Rec on, Jessica, I know that we talked about getting the pavilion work done. More meeting with the playground people.
Yes. So for Parks and Recreation, we're gonna meet on Wednesday with a group called Kaboom about doing something in Hannah Pickett Park area. Find out what the cost would be to do some sort of a base that we can add swings and playground equipment over time, get a basic set and then add to it. We will probably have at the end of the year about $25,000 to spend, and we hope that we can also get some other churches and local groups to donate to that cause too. And then we ordered today a portable viewing screen to do movies at night, probably beginning at the end of September and through the fall, as long as it's not too cold. This is a blow-up screen that's 22 feet in size, and it'll go in the pavilion, or we can move it to other sites too. So we could take it to Horton Park or to any other location, as long as we have electricity to let it expand and get blown up. So that's kind of exciting, and that's two new things. And then the ballpark has new dugout benches that are being installed.
No, they're going to be, they have been,
And somebody donated that, they wouldn't say anonymous, right? But we appreciate it, so we've got 2 brand new benches that are going out there. You know, so,
In the dugout.
yep, in the dugout. So,
And Doreen and I are gonna work on fall decorations for Main Street that'll go up very soon.
and the donor that is buying the bushes that we're gonna start putting out in the mountain, they did put out 4 today. He's ordering 48 more and may even order 100. I don't know where John went, but John's here somewhere. Is John still here?
Yeah, he is.
Well, yeah, John, and so they did plant some, what is that, Lee Street? Right off Lee Street today, and 2 on the 2 corners where the stick, the fencing's at there.
Mhm.
And so those are beginning to be put out too. So, and things are happening. And the Mountain Goat Trail, I don't know if you wanna talk, it's part of the Park and Rec, but it's looking really nice, and it goes to where now?
It goes to the end of, is Eagle Cliff Road? Is that it? To the north?
Intersection.
I should know the name.
I hadn't walked it yet, so I don't know, but I'll walk it.
That's Mary's and Michael's house.
Okay, but the section's not connected that you can go through, and it's a really nice part of the trail that you can go through town here by the park. So we're working on the pavilion, getting it cleaned up and building up here. Will be our first section with Park and Rec. Is that not correct, folks?
And there's a nonprofit group that will do a wildflower garden between the Mountain Goat Trail and DeVoe Street.
And this past week, when I was at the Economic Development Conference, there's quite a bit of money that's gonna be released again. There's so many stipulations and also requirements, we just gotta be ready, and Beth Jones was here today, and she talked about multiple facets to prepare the town to do it. But one of them, of course, was the cop run, we've talked about, she's gonna come back about that, she had to go to Tracy to do too. But there's some tourism money that she's gonna be applying for, and also, and everyone knows that we're going to electric cars. We got these when Leaf, was first introduced by Nissan, and it's time to upgrade them. So we're in the process now of getting put out by Blink, which is the company that's providing it, and see if they will provide them again for free, the fast charging sites, to where we can have at least 2 to 4 here and some other locations in town. Because FedEx, Amazon, their trucks are going that way. Of course, they gave a date of when they'd be doing it, but right now the state and federal government's investing a lot, so we're actually sending something. Well, the commissioner said, tell me what you want and we'll get it for you. So we're hoping to do that last week. So if we can get those, and it won't cost the town anything to have them installed. And there'll be some installed here first, and then we can decide other locations in the town to get them.
There's actually an app where you can get on, you can log on and find them all. And I got onto this one and saw people's comments about it. It was nice. There's people that rent things would go hang out at the park while they charge.
And we're hoping we can get the fast ones, of course, those are sort of outdated, 6 hours, you know, but at least we have them there, and then to upgrade them at no cost. So we're working on that one too. Any facts? Have you got anything else, ladies? Alvin?
No.
Okay. Did we not, Alvin, did someone tell you also there were some batting cages that had been ordered for?
Yes, but I haven't seen it.
Okay, so we'll just see about this.
We'll see about those.
And so we'll move to next, and then we'll skip whatever date that may be scheduled for, we'll announce that, correct? All right, utilities manager, John, you're next.
Well, I give y'all some pamphlets on the water plant.
And John was here today, he and Beth Jones are preparing a packet for the needs of our water and sewer. One of his infrastructure money's becoming available, so hopefully we can be ready to get that and get our water and our sewer. And
This looks like from the pictures, it really needs pretty quick attention.
Well, it needs it bad, really.
so which one is this that you're,
That's at the water plant, the basin out back. And they did repair it years ago, but I don't know when. All they did was come there and capped it with concrete. Put a thin coat on it, now it's busted and cracking and it's falling off in the filters.
And that is,
do you have the cost for that, John?
Well, it's in that paper.
it's on 40.
There's two different prices there.
Do you have a recommendation?
One of them is with the, doing the outside of the basin, what walls is showing, just a short part, and then the top of it, and then the other price, I think 16,000 up to do the catwalks. But I don't know if, I'm gonna get with Whalen, I don't know if the catwalks are needed or not, but I'm gonna check with him and see, cause we really can't tell what's under, if it's deteriorating under the catwalks or not.
So this will be $49,050 to repair the water plant basins.
Right, that's for the outside edges of it and stuff, in the walls, so far down. It's not the whole basin now. It comes down so far on the inside and seals it. Because there's nothing wrong from the water level down.
And then you've got the addition to the catwalks, which would be the 65.8
That's right.
for everything, so what do we need to do?
Well,
Based upon,
let me talk to Whalen on the catwalks. Now, what we may have to do, since that thing stays full of water, we may have to get us a mirror and try to look under it, or go swimming, look under it and see. One or the other.
so do you want us to do this tonight, or do you want us to do it on the 30th, so you know what your total cost to be? I mean, you've got a cost factor here, so.
We wouldn't need to have a first reading.
Well, now we can do the first one. I mean, we can do the first one, and then we can always go back on the
And amend
second
it.
part. Amend it, yeah.
Well, do you wanna go ahead and do the total amount for the $65,800, then amend it if we don't need it on?
We can.
I mean, wouldn't that be better than to go?
I mean, it needs to be done, because the concrete's falling off there, and it's gonna get worse. It's just gonna get worse.
And this is, whenever this bid's done, because this is the only company that can do this, is this correct?
They're the only company that gives a 10-year warranty. They stamp it, and they give a 10-year warranty. They stamp right in the cover. And they give a 10-year warranty on it. And Travis told me that all the other people he's talked to about it give a year's warranty. And I seen this same people years ago. I went to an expo up in Murfreesboro, and they was giving a show on it, but it's come up way better now. They use different materials.
So what Debbie was just saying, even though this is the company you'd probably recommend, and we'll still have to bid it out based on specs.
Right.
So if we not to exceed X amount of money, we still have to bid it out.
Which ones you wanna do? You wanna do them both? Or you just wanna do the 49 and wait to do that?
Do the 65.
Let's do it all at once, it'd be best.
Well, that's what Merle said. Go ahead and do the 65, and then if we have to back up, we can just amend that, take that off to 16. I
Do
think it is 16.
66 anyway, because it's 65.8, but that's not to exceed, because he's gonna have to do bids, we gotta do bids on it, once it's, approved, regardless.
So this will be our high bid.
Yes.
Yeah. So I make a motion, to authorize John to engage with the contractor to rehabilitate, the water basins at the water plant with a cost not to exceed $65,800. That work?
Yeah.
What,
in the budget, guys.
what happens that week? What happens for the week that you can't?
We get water from Tracy.
Okay.
We just open the flow up, get more water from Tracy.
And so from a budgetary standpoint, you guys have enough in your general fund. We're not talking, this is just gonna come out of general fund, right?
No, it comes out of water and sewer,
This
this
is the
doesn't.
water and sewer,
Yeah.
their fund.
And how much do they have? They have it in there to get, so we don't have to amend the budget to do
Right,
that.
it'll be fine.
Yeah, it's more than fun for those.
They don't have the line items, their line items are all zeroed out. We're
Yeah.
just approving expenses and it comes out of their general operating.
I'll second.
Do I have a second? Any other discussion? Roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Adam?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Team start.
And we was buying the, high service pump on the emergency plan. It's on order. I talked to Lamar, Dave, he said he was gonna check on it. But it's on order about hitting the VHF and all the other stuff we need for it. So it's on order. And then,
Lights.
I talked to Arden about the lights. He's gonna set a day with me up here on the lights. And then, aqua program, when you get that passed for the sewer plant.
Okay, and you wanna go ahead and, this is for project. Where nobody else has this software, right? That'll work with the sewer plant. That's the reason.
No, we gotta upgrade all this.
So where is that one?
Well, we can't meet our phosphorus test. There's no way. We can't meet it.
Because this doesn't have to be done that way, because there was somebody else could provide this. Okay,
This is what we talked about 6 months ago.
yes,
That's right.
and they tried to find companies, and there's no other company that they could utilize for where we're at, unless you go into millions of dollars to do.
We've jumped around things down there, tried to make things work, and it's hard to explain when you got the settable solids and stuff in the tanks. You got to keep them at a certain level, like 2,200 milligrams, keep the phosphorus down. We don't have no way to set the pumps, so we just have to go out there and turn them on, let them pump for a while and turn them off. Okay, during the nighttime, they sit there and they're not pumping nothing. So we get behind, and I think the last time I checked with Rome, we was like 4,200 mixed milligrams per liter.
Mm-hmm.
We gotta keep that down for the phosphorus stuff. We don't have no accurate flow readings. Our flow readings are not accurate, so. And we got inspected, we haven't got the letter from the state yet, but it's all written up from the state.
So is this gonna fully automate the plant then?
It's back.
Back.
Well, it's also gonna update the software, because it's been
Right.
how many years since you've had it updated?
Well,
It's been quite a few.
How long plant been there, 8 years?
Yeah, about that, so it's time to upgrade the software. But the SCADA, as they call it, has to, and it's, there's no other company that can provide this, so this was looked at.
You see, when this thing, just like this operation now, see, if we don't have it, like, if everything's working and something goes wrong, we've got alarms and stuff that calls us, and we went there and that. Well, half this stuff don't work.
Don't work
No,
anymore.
this can be bid out.
So is there a usable service life for this upgrade? I mean, could we figure 8 years to be usable service life? Sounds like
And I
it
think it
should-
was
this
more
much
like, I
while.
think it was more like 5. And because weren't you supposed to have it upgraded, and then, I know you said that it was supposed to be in like a 5-year plan or
Right, yeah,
6-year plan?
yeah.
Part of this budget.
Okay. Okay, well, it is on the budget amendment, but they put 53,000 total. Here's the package. It also gives a time frame with it, Nate, but I think that it's more like a 3-year, 4-year span when they have to upgrade it.
So it has, customer service with it for a
Yes,
period of time?
if you look, there's a list of the items that come with it. Look on the second page, I think.
Feel like I'm getting old.
You got your readers?
How
down there,
soon would you
somebody?
get this?
Hey, John's got some readers.
How
Looking at
soon would you get this?
I have no idea.
You need it. Tomorrow.
Bad.
Well, we've been looking at it for what, 6 months? They've been investigating other companies and they couldn't get another company.
I've been looking at it for a year.
And then we have 6 months.
So 42 months from date of shipment, or 3 years, is the warranty. But do they have customer service? I mean, do they include helping you with it, making sure it's operating?
Oh, yeah, they will, yeah,
That's part of the practice, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Did we just need to make a motion in it?
It's in the budget amendment.
Oh, that's true.
So this John's talking about's in this budget?
Yeah. Right.
So we got 2 separate budget amendments for water and sewer?
No, we've got one for
One.
this,
One.
we already approved the other, and then we've got the budget amendment for the police department in here, and the fire truck. So we've got several, yeah, a whole bunch of them.
Got 3 of them.
Oh, Debbie needs that back too, that's on top of this.
Anytime you get bigger than that.
So. And do you need anything else besides pumps and software and?
No, I think that's it, everything else.
Walls
is going-
repaired tonight, you know, what else do you need? Yeah.
Everything else went fair, I think.
Okay,
I'll let you know tomorrow.
okay.
And Keith may mention it, I don't know, but the signs over there at the corner that the guy wanted changed with the UPS man, we've got them changed.
Well, thank you, sir, we
And
appreciate
he
that.
can buy the next ones if it's don't suit him.
I noticed the little arrows on them.
So, I mean, we ain't got time for nobody sit out there in the bucket pointing this direction, that direction.
Well, as long as we got the signs up, you said you would. All right, Budner, you're next. Street departments, please. Thank God, what to do.
What you need?
All right. Just to follow up, I know that you had some work done on Grundy County sign.
Right.
There were several roads. There was Northwest Circle. There was Campbell's subdivision. There was over, 2 acres? There was, what was the 2
Some on
others?
Third and
Street,
H Street. yeah.
I know one of them had been 34 years, it was mentioned, and we got all that done with tar and chip.
Right.
And we're less than $8,000. And
Right.
it was 34 years whenever some of the roads, some of the North Bluffdale said had been 30-some years. It was on everybody's radar. So just clarifying, it wasn't for the mayor or anyone,
Right.
it was just on that
Right.
list. But that was brought up a while back, and
Yeah,
I know y'all had discussed it, and just to make sure that there was.
well, it had been talked about since I've been here, so.
There was almost 2 miles for less than $8,000 with tar and chip that was done on the Grundy County sign.
Right.
I did talk to Jim,
Marion County, yeah.
and he said that they had ordered it apart. And as I told you before, from China, and basically they should
Right.
have it in this week.
Yeah.
And they would start on Laurel Lake and the Ridge Cliff roads.
Yes.
And,
We had, 4 sections up there?
yeah, and what about, the access road? Is that ready, and what's going on with that? Did they get it?
I mean, yeah, it's great. I mean, we just need to put a cover at each end, but it's usable now. All we gotta do is unblock it. So if you had an emergency, you could go ahead and use it.
Does anyone else have anything? And is that one of the street signs about that had been requested?
Yeah.
I did have a request for the slow children at play sign on
Yeah.
Left Drive.
On North Bluff Drive?
Yeah, John Campbell's grandkids
Oh, yeah.
they're playing in the yard and now
Right.
they fly down
Yeah.
there.
Well, we also need to get Jared to start monitoring a little bit more. I know you and I talked about a couple of issues at certain times, because I know they have had several arrests up through there too, they said, on those roads, because it connects to a county road somewhere. They said.
Since we come under budget on the Grundy side, can we use that on the Marion side when they get here?
Well, I'm sure you can, but there might be more roads on the Grundy side, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, but I'm just thinking about one we probably overlooked. It was behind the church down there, it's not behind CVS. It's in bad shape.
Is it? Well, I mean, you need to talk to him when he comes up here.
Yeah.
Because he did say he'd do that additional section.
Right.
And he wasn't going to charge us, he said, for as small as it was.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll charge us for materials.
Yeah,
But I would talk to him about that and go ahead and get it in the budget.
Yeah.
Since we did come up, what, 7,000?
right, and that's what I was
Under
asking, if
budget.
you could use that.
So,
I don't think we specified when we passed the ordinance.
well, we had 14. No, but we had 14 was what his estimate was, and it was less than 8. So he had about 5,000 to 6,000 left on the Grundy County side, which is tar and chip that was moved over to, he wants to use it on the Marion County side.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, I mean, it is bad, it
Yeah.
needs some attention.
yeah, I'd go ahead and call him and tell him those, so we
Right.
can go ahead and be prepared to bring the
Right,
materials to
yeah, I
him.
need to get it measured and see what
Yeah.
it is before we talk to him again.
And he probably will let you measure it like he did before.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
call him and
big
tell
time.
him. What I'd do is go ahead and do it, and I'd call him tomorrow with it.
Okay.
Because when I talked to him today, he said if it's not raining, he said if that equipment came in here, he'd tell you the next day.
Okay, yeah, that's no problem.
Anyone else have anything for Butler?
Good.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Codes enforcement. And, well, it's actually, I think we need to put on there building inspector. It's what we need to do.
Whatever you think will be fine with me.
Well, I know since the issue, as you do different things now, that was sort of changed with something we need to talk about at our next meeting, you know. But, there
Well,
you go, sir, it's your turn.
the only good thing I've got to say probably is I'm not gonna have to bring the money.
Thank you, sir.
I have 3 business permits. I think Debbie's got one, she's got the 4th one. Bear Court Rental, this is a short-term rental. I think they call them Airbnb or something. I met with those people today, and everything checks out, and I'm ready to approve their business permit. It's at 1809 Bear Court.
Right here.
I'm not sure. Short term.
Okay,
Yep.
there, hang on.
So, if you wanna ask them any questions
Y'all
about
wanna come
anything?
up, just so you can introduce
It's a
yourself?
very nice home, and what I look for in those is make sure we got smoke alarms at work, we got fire extinguishers, we have guardrails, we have handrails where they're needed, blah, blah, blah. So it's generally life safety.
Do you we need to look at me down here. Y'all don't care, you just come up and just introduce yourself.
Sure, absolutely. I'm Meredith Graham, this is my husband Michael, and we've been visitors to the mountain for years and years and years, and have been looking for a place to use as a vacation home, but we'd also like to use it for rental as well. So we're excited to be part of the town, and thank you, Earl, for coming out.
You wanna hear about it?
This is Laurel Lake, it's on Laurel Lake, right? But it's one of, is Bear Court? It's on this,
It's on the right. After you pass.
yeah, that's, I would be on my right, never, yeah, I have to turn around. Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I'm thankful to be here, and appreciate y'all's consideration.
Well, do you want, we can do them just individual if you want to, let's just do it like that.
Sure.
Let's do-
Is this it? You need a
Yeah, that's it,
motion?
we need a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Thank you, we appreciate it, now get you your permit.
Okay.
So, any information at the office, and we'll hand that back to Debbie, she has to have it, but welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to say, I appreciate the talk of the hydrant maintenance, because we had a home in our neighborhood that caught fire, and I think they had to try 3 or 4 hydrants before they found one that worked. So that's good that you're being proactive.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
You had a fire and turn on here?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right, I started to say that.
The next one I have is Polished Nail Company, Jessica Blaylock. This is in Dean Lay's building down there.
And that's the one on Main Street?
Yes, it is. At one time, several months ago, we had a doctor put a oxygen machine or something, was gonna do that. Well, that's gone away now, and her little nail salon's going right in there where that was.
There was a boutique there too, wasn't it, one time, Nick? Yeah. Yeah. Well, everything, Jessica certified, been doing nails for a long time. I'm happy.
2010.
So that's real, so,
I make a motion to approve.
you have a motion?
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
And come back and they'll get you your permit for you. Okay.
Smoking Man, Mike's Barbecue, Betsy Oliver.
That's a food truck, right?
What?
Isn't that a food truck?
It's a food truck.
Yeah.
She may not be here.
Well, That's something we may need to post whenever we get a chance in the office on the site. The food trucks are handled a little bit differently.
Yeah.
You know, how that they have to be inspected, what they have to bring to you
Well,
before
that's,
they.
they already
Oh,
have.
not them, but I'm talking about, there's a couple others that need to know, they need to come through the office, and there's a process to set up food trucks. You just can't set it up in town, you know, hang a shingle when it's there.
Yeah, you have to have a permit for it.
Yeah.
They have to be permitted, and theirs was.
Yeah, well, I knew theirs was, but there's been a couple others that have asked and we checked out.
We've got the permit applications and all the requirements.
They just pick them up there at City Hall, it has the ordinance, reads everything in it that needs to be done if you wanna have a mobile food unit.
And we welcome them. I mean, it's a new part of business now. People are doing mobile if they.
Will a mobile unit, will it require a vendor's permit or a business license?
Well,
It's a mobile vendor permit, but they also have to be inspected by the health department. Earl can walk them through the process, don't they, Earl? Whenever, there's several things
that's
they
part
have
of
to
the deal.
provide for
I mean,
him.
yeah, there's 4 stipulations, one of them has to be a letter from whoever they're setting up, whatever property with permission to set up there, and then they have to have their health inspection certificate, just several things I can think of too, but they're just really important, just the life safety and keep
So
people
he can give
getting.
them temporary till August the
Oh, it's
30th.
Right.
What we can do is have them be here on the 30th and just tell the people we can introduce them for that, because they're not here tonight.
Okay.
So,
You want me to give this back to you, and then you can make contact? I'll take care of that then. Last one, I think this is one, the Scoop, they've already been here. And I think you told me they'd already, I went down and looked at it.
somebody else came
after
for
the
them at the
fact.
last meeting.
So this was automatic, I think this was approved last time.
Yeah. So,
Okay, good.
All right.
That's those.
Since we lost one.
To bring you, everyone up to date on things that I'm working on right now. Petro, they have a permit application that's been turned in, but they do not have correct documents for me to sign the permit yet. And they're waiting on stamped, architectural stamped drawings, which I insist on having before we sign the permit. So my understanding is, and I've sat with Rodney and Mr. Graber both, and they're all on, I gave them a list of here's what we got to have, so before I can sign your permit, and they're aware of that, and they're working on that. I heard last that they thought they were gonna have their plans by the 20th this month. So that's where we are with that one.
How about Rocky Top?
Nothing on that.
So can I ask a question on that for you?
I'll do my best.
So I'm curious how long they can go with an approved plat before is there a process whereby it expires?
I've already talked with Earl about this. It doesn't expire. That's something that the town can look at later.
Well, at what point do we want to say, hey guys, you're not making progress and your privacy fence is out of compliance? Because I know that some of the neighbors asked me about the privacy fence, and I said, well, listen, they just got a new site plan approved.
Yeah.
And if they're taking down that fence to put up a better one, I don't want to beat them up on that right now. However, that site plan was approved in November, wasn't it?
It's been a long time, yeah, I agree, yeah.
So are there things that we can do to check in on that, or to say, hey, we need to see some progress, or we need to see the barrier going up? Are there tools that we have to do that?
We talked about that a while back, and you can put those things into place. Now, I don't know, it's the same question. Non-compliance versus the site plan, and how long do we have till we start dealing with that situation? That's one. But currently, did you not tell me? One of them is indefinite and one of them is 3 to 5 years.
There is no, and I asked this question to Southeast Economic Development District. It's when does the site plan go back?
Expire.
And they tell me that there's no language in any of the ordinances that ever address that situation.
And so is there language that says, we probably need to come up then with some language to say, once a site plan is approved, you have this many months to begin construction or to get in compliance with your.
And if you're not in compliance into the situation, or you're gonna start being fined for non-compliance because you're not implementing the site plan.
Well, what I say is they just die, and they have to come back.
Well, but the issue is they had a fence, which I know you know way more about it than I do, and that fence was taken down.
Yeah.
And so my response to the neighbors at the time is, well, they just had this site plan approved, that fence was taken down. We assumed so that they could begin construction on this new plan, and now it's down and nothing is happening, so they are out of compliance.
My understanding is that that's part of this big picture project development. And my guess would be that the funds to do that work are gonna be tied in with the funds to do the travel center.
We were explicitly told that that was the case.
That's part of the petrol. It
Yeah.
will be part of the petrol. So my guess is that, hopefully, once we can sign a permit for that project, when it starts some funds rolling, that'll be part of it.
Well, I guess the flip side of that, though, is there is nothing, we retain the power to find them in non-compliance with their zoning ordinance from the time of their original permit, right?
I don't know, we'll have to ask an attorney that question.
But
Because-
here's what you're gonna be faced with. You're gonna be faced with, an officer going down there and giving them a letter, giving them 30 days to get this privacy fence up. And they don't do it, and they're decided to city court.
Mm-hmm.
And, 2 or 3 months later, the judge is giving them every opportunity to put it up, because I've been through this.
With them.
I know. So, yeah, I don't have a good answer for that.
Okay.
I think the best way to find out if this permit's approved, and I'm not saying it's approved, I'm saying if it's approved, if the process starts there too. If not, we need to find out from an attorney, how do we deal with this the right way? Because this could be a different situation besides this one. We got two issues, non-compliance and a permit provided based upon the project, so.
So, you're in contact with them, would you ask them for clarification on that timeline?
Here's what I will do.
Yeah.
Because I know that they're ready, they're wearing me out about signing the permit, and I won't do it till I have to.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll do, when we do get to that point where the rubber meeting the road on signing that permit, I'm gonna say, I wanna ask them to do that fence relatively earlier than with the plan. So-
But that would be the fence for TA Petro, because your building permit is for both of them, or just for TA Petro?
I'm sorry, what?
Is your building permit for both
No,
projects, or
the
just for
permit's
one?
just for the petrol, for
Okay.
that part of it. So this was done separately.
Well, would you
That's gonna
also,
require a second permit.
would you also ask them for the timeline on that second
I
permit?
will.
And then we'll ask you about it next month, and I don't think, I'm not saying we need to hold them in violation right now, but we need to start.
I understand, absolutely.
Well, at the last planning commission, when this come up, Mary Jane revised she wanted more landscape. So they had to get a new
Yeah,
site
that's part of the
plan.
deal, yeah.
That was,
So is that part of the delay?
No,
I mean, I don't know, I'm just
I
asking.
really don't know. I asked them for construction drawings, and they sent me rolls and rolls of drawings that weren't stamped.
so if they're not scanned, they're not.
Right.
And what we're getting, coming now, got architect stamps.
There was like a opening on this side, and she wanted more landscaping, so I don't know that.
And I think the way I thought it when I wasn't at the planning commission meeting, but don't they have to come back for a secondary to talk about that landscaping, don't they? Or they?
No, they approved it based upon 4 items. I mean, I watched it, I wasn't there either, but wasn't there 4 elements, and that's the one that thing you said you will not
There
sign out
was,
on?
yeah.
And there, whatever those 4 are, I haven't looked at the minutes in a while.
See, what I wanna do too is before I sign the permit, I'm gonna get with Jerry, and we'll go to the meeting, through the minutes, the last planning commission, to make sure that everything was covered on there that's in the motion.
Right.
So we'll
I think that was like the only thing that
follow
I
up on
remember.
that.
There was like 14 elements that were there, but I can't remember what all they were. Something about drainage, and there was several.
She had brought up the
Yeah.
drainage, but I think it was on the site plan, and she just didn't see it at the time. Janet remembers. I think the only thing that really put it back was the landscaping. She wanted more trees where that opening was.
And they agreed to do that.
Yeah.
And that's 3
Yeah.
by along
Trestle.
that Trussell, no, not Trussell.
This one, sample.
Sampling, right along Sampling, there was a place that they're having an opening and they're supposed to close that.
Yeah, that's the way that you wanted more trees there. So I didn't know if they used that as a reason that they're gonna have the site plan, they don't have the fence, I don't know.
Well, they've gotta have it's gotta be signed before he can sign off on it, so that's what he's waiting on, to make sure it's proper.
The pallet tire shop, I have the construction drawings on that, I have reviewed those, and they are fine. However, they do not have a license, Tennessee licensed, contractor, licensed general contractor. And I did, they've got a sign package too that was part of which they normally don't do it, but this sign package is part of the construction documents. And I did a plan review on it too, because I still would like to do the administrative part of when we get big sign packages done, because I've done it forever and I know how to do it, but I don't want to be on the enforcement side. I will do the administrative side. Anyway, and I've talked there, their sign package didn't have problems with it being origination. And they're aware of that and they're correcting that.
So are they planning on getting a Tennessee?
I'm sorry, what?
Are they planning on getting a general contractor in Tennessee?
Yeah, no problem, yeah. But, I can't sign it, won't sign it without Tennessee license, general contractor on permit.
We had also talked about reaching out to them to see if they would be willing to do dark sky compliant lighting when they did this addition. Was that something, Marilyn, you were gonna reach out to them on?
I haven't talked to them. Earl can do that when it's there, but they've got, I think do they have lighting back there? I don't think there's any lighting there.
There's no lighting back there?
No, because they're not using the back for anything but for maintenance. That road's not gonna be used for anything. They have to come through the front. I mean, Earl's got it, but I don't think
I think it's just the lighting that's there now,
they're not going to extend.
Okay.
I don't remember seeing any lighting in the back.
I haven't looked at it, of course, I didn't vote on it, but I don't remember any lighting discussed at all.
I'll take another look at it.
Okay.
But, anyway, and, one more thing and then I'll be done. We've got a burnout over on Winston. And I've talked to, a proposed buyer of that property. And he's working with the mortgage company to buy it. And, he would clean it up. So I think it's for us to give them a little time to work that out, because it's gonna be a lot easier. For them to do it than the city to have to do it and then clean the property for it. So that's where we are with that.
So how long are you going to give them the
Well,
purchase?
I think probably, another 30 days would be enough.
Okay.
And then I'll jump back in the middle of it, we'll take some action on it.
Now
And I was wondering, Debbie, do you remember if we ever got the return receipt back from America's Mortgage? See, we sent them a certified letter 2 months ago. Okay. All right. If y'all have any questions for me, I'll be done.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
All right, now let's move to old business. Second reading of the ordinance 13-21. That's an ordinance of the town of Monteagle of the state of Tennessee to amend Title 12 of the municipal code to adopt the provisions of an update of standard codes. Building code adoption, violation of penalty, plumbing adoption, violation of penalty, residential code adoption, modifications. I'm reading the highlights in this as well as the heading is violations and penalties, energy code adoptions. We will make this part of the minutes. Section times modification, violations and penalties, mechanical code adoptions, violation of penalties, fuel, gas code adoptions, modification, using of existing pipes and appliances, available in the recorder's office is another heading. Then violation of penalties, existing code adoptions, modifications, and then of course we continue through chapter 12, same language. Fire code adoptions through 16, and the ordinance 17 will take effect by publication of public welfare requiring the same. So we have 8 pages.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through them slowly. I'm assuming all of you are reading it line by line, right?
And this will be available, this will be the second reading of ordinance 1321 adoption of codes, and this was recommended by you, correct, Al?
Yes,
That we
ma'am.
did adopt this, so,
And the reading tonight of that will be the second reading, which it will be an ordinance now.
yes.
After it's read. And y'all, after you vote affirmative, it'll be a done deal.
So do we have a motion on ordinance 13, or second reading of ordinance 13-21?
I make a motion to approve ordinance 13-21 on the second reading, to update the municipal building code.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
And then,
Opposed?
and then now that it's approved, you'll use this as a base to.
Yes, ma'am, I will, and something y'all not to think about, I'm sure, all attorneys want you to have a set of books, and for some crazy reason, in the office, a set of codes, that's up to you whether you do or not.
I think we need one.
If you do want to, then I'll get them for you.
I
I'm a
think-
member of ICC, and I can save some money if you want to do that. I've already got it set, so I've got it set we can use as far as my person.
Yeah, I think we need to have that in the office. It's important, because people come in to get records, they can make copies of it. People are still do old school.
If they want no beans about none of it.
No, but if they ask for it, we got public record available for them. So,
I'll get you set.
okay, so that was approved. Okay. All right, so next will be the first reading of ordinance 14-21, which is R3 to R1 on Lydia and South Central Street. So that'll be ordinance number 14-21, an ordinance to amend the zoning map for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee, to rezone partial 036.00 Marion County tax map 022K, Group A from R3 high density residential to R1 low density residential. This will be your first reading. And do we need, that's Mr. Van Hedges.
I'll make the motion.
But before we do that, we probably need to read section 207. There was no general plan for the area, which there has been no general plan for that area that we're aware of. The amendment does not violate legal grounds for zoning provisions. Are y'all aware of any of that? No. The overwhelming public good or welfare justifies any adverse effects upon the adjoining or adjacent property owners. There is nothing there, correct? No one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the change or the deferment of the general public. So it will not hurt the general public to do this, is this correct?
Correct.
From what we've looked at. And there is no general plan for the area. What's that on there twice? Just to reiterate it, it's number 5. So anyway, so is that correct, Council? So I'm reading that, and we've answered those questions. So, back to, we have a motion on the first reading of ordinance 14-21. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Now, we have to have a public hearing.
Public hearing will be August 30th at 5:45.
This has already been advertised, right? We will have to have a public hearing for this, which will be August the 30th at 5:45, and then we can do the second reading after the public hearing. So, alright, so that was,
I'll get you a sign.
He's already got
he's already got one, it's already out, we got that one. Okay, now the first reading on 15-21, which 15-21, can you pull that one up, Nate?
It's right here.
Okay, is budget ordinance amendment for the budget for the town of Monteagle of Tennessee for the fiscal year of 2021-2022. As you'll see, it's the police salaries, it's of course all the payroll liabilities to go with that, which the total is estimated $51,284. An increase in the budget of $22.50 for the 2 police cars, and which was mentioned tonight.
Right.
And for the maintenance and equipment, and this is, well, one comes out of general fund, one comes out of water and sewer. So,
What? We can't take,
what?
we can't buy a police car out of water and sewer.
No. One comes, you have the first 2 that
Yeah,
come
I
out of general.
got you. Okay,
The
so-
latter comes out of water and sewer, you're right.
Or out
No.
of capital replacement, you mean? You mean for the police car?
We were gonna use that out of how are we going to amend it to?
Capital assessment
Cap-
would be-
cap-
Capital assessment replacement funds is for the 2250,
Yeah.
okay?
And then.
And general
we lose that.
funds for the first one, which is
The first
51. And then water and sewer is for the third one.
The
Yes,
third
we
one.
do not mix water and sewer with these other funds, Nate, for clarification.
Or water and sewer,
We're gonna
for
get
that
you, yeah, or water and sewer. We're gonna get you some readers though, Nate. You're confusing me, that's when you go in. So,
This is just all budget.
this is,
Yeah.
yes, but this is the first reading on the ordinance of 15-21.
There's 3 budget amendments.
Yes.
2 for the police, 1 for water and sewer. Okay.
Correct.
And I'm gonna make a motion to approve on first reading ordinance number 15-21, budget amendment.
All right, we're gonna do a roll call. Nate,
Yes.
Alvin,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Doreen,
Yes.
no, yes. Okay. There's Donna.
Rolling
We
down
got
the
some
line.
more to go. All right,
Oh, but I got one.
then the next will be on 1621 budget amendment. The budget amendment, it says budget amendment, ordinance amending the budget for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee for the fiscal year of 2021 and 2022. And this is out of capital assessment replacement funds for a fire truck not to exceed the amount of $150,000, which there will be bids on this before it's done. But as y'all know, we're down to one truck, as Mr. Maloof, which is still here, as he of course has went through the process that we're gonna do fundraising, but we don't have but one truck and we're eliminating some of those, so that's the need for this.
So I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 16-21.
On first reading.
Budget amendment on first reading.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll say.
Doreen, second. Roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen?
Yes.
Me, yes. Now, what's next? 1721. Or 1721.
So we're down to it, 1721, budget ordinance amendment.
1721. Okay.
Oh, it's a larger font. We have a hard time getting it all on there.
Yes. This is for the pump, for the, water and sewer.
Yeah.
Ordinance number 1721, budget ordinance amendment for the budget for the town of Monteagle, Tennessee for the fiscal year of 2021 and 2022. This is water and sewer funds for the expenditure of machine equipment for $40,000 for the pump, for the high surface pump for the plant, which we only had one, and it was mandatory that we did on that one. Because if that had went down, we would have been shut down. I mean, that was discussed with the attorney and I guess I did with auditors.
It was approved as an emergency purchase.
Right,
Yeah.
right, yes, but we still have to amend the budget.
Gotcha.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call vote. Nate?
Yes.
Alvin?
Yes.
Jessica?
Yes.
Doreen? Yes. I said yes. Which is 1821. 1821, an ordinance to amend section 1105, non-conforming use of structures of the zoning ordinance of the town of Monteagle, Tennessee. Do you have that one up on the screen?
I do.
Nate? And you might want to scroll down for its non-conforming use, for general use, for single family dwelling, from C1 to C2. And based upon this, so. Send that, okay, if it passes. So, do we have a motion on the?
So we're basically allowing non-conforming buildings to be reconstructed within the commercial district?
Earl?
My understanding is, this came up from the planning commission, I think they recommended it to the board. As it is now, the non-conforming use of any property cannot be altered in any manner other than for just maintenance. In other words, you can't add anything onto it, unless it's, roof goes bad, you can fix the roof, but you can't add anything onto it. And what this does, is allows people to be able to, my understanding was, say add on the property. If it's in a non-conforming use, which we have properties that are in commercial districts, especially between here and Swanee. And, what they were grandfathered in, when there were houses already there, and then it was made commercial. And then those houses are grandfathered in as a non-conforming use. Well, that means that house cannot be added onto in any manner, or nothing other than just maintenance. And, what this does, it gives the opportunity to be able to reconstruct or add on to, in case, if you need to do that or want to. As long as you meet setbacks.
So we stopped work on Deborah Powell's double wide there in the downtown district because she was adding a porch on, so this would allow her to add that porch on?
No, this was actually Mr. Maxwell's property down by the museum.
But wouldn't you do the same thing?
I don't know. No, because that's not, no.
The issue she had was it was being used as a residence in a commercial district.
But isn't that the same thing?
No,
Mr. Maxwell?
no, he has a residential, his was already there, right?
Yes, it's been there for years.
Yeah.
Oh, so the distinction is that she put it in there as a
Actually, that was
No, she
never
was
grandfathered in. It was never any, his was found grandfathered in, hers just happened.
Maxwell worked at, Kim Wiggins' house down there beside the museum.
Gotcha. The issue with the modular home was that nobody could ever figure out how it could have been used as a residence, which it was used as a residence.
It never should have.
And it continued on being that. And, your zoning regs say that you can't, if you've got something established now as commercial zone, you can't put single family in that.
But had it been used as commercial, it had always been residential.
No, it didn't, but it never was approved. There was,
Nobody could ever find anything that shows where it could be, it's supposed to be a residence.
which there was a difference where Mr. Maxwell was at, it was residential in commercial. That was a house.
Yeah, and she agreed to, and I gave her a permit to fix the courts. The courts need to be fixed.
Okay.
I gave her a permit for that, and originally they were just gonna pull it out. But then she told me she got some people that were interested in it, some insurance people that were interested in putting a business in it. And I said, that'd be great, that'd make it a conforming use.
So that issue's supposed to be.
No, it's just the porch has to be built.
So that's what I know about that project.
But this is referring to the Maxwell property, correct?
This is where this came from,
Yeah.
the Maxwell property.
Because that was residential. And that's been a house forever, right?
And don't we have another landowner in that same area who's interested in building residential? And the whole corridor zoned commercial?
No, that is already residential. If we're talking about the property that's just recently purchased because they checked it.
No, Dean's property. It's also in that area.
It's back up further this way.
Dean's is up a piece of hut. If there's another ordinance that's gonna be created to deal with that, I'll make a recommendation. It's just not on tonight's agenda, correct, Earl?
Okay.
And I think this would be the same way. This is a case-by-case basis. It's just not assumed it can happen, correct? It has to go through the proper
No, once
channels.
you pass the ordinance, it'll be.
So it can happen.
Citywide.
Yeah, this is watering down our ordinance.
Well, do you want to table it to the 30th and to deal with it? But this is Mr. Maxwell's property. Should it be a case-by-case basis? Just like you talked about with the property that Dean's looking at, it was case-by-case, it's not a guarantee it can happen.
If that's something y'all wanna add to it, that'd be fine. But I think the planning commission, it came through the planning commission, and I think they would be the ones that would need to change the readings of the wording of it.
I haven't got the one done.
And if I'm not mistaken, our planner, Jerry, told the planning commission that there were other jurisdictions and other communities around that are doing the same thing. They're loosening their non-conforming use. Where somebody, if they want to add a bathroom home,
shame that you can't build onto your house because there's a city ordinance against it, you know?
Yeah, I just wonder if a better solution, given where we are with our commercial development, I mean, do we really need all that commercial development that far out? Is it really appropriate to have that zone C2? Because I know there's residential out there as well.
That's where we need to look at what are we gonna really have in our master plan,
Yeah.
which we're gonna start in a few weeks. That if we're gonna adopt a corridor and then versus that, what should be what?
My preference, I guess, would be to look at why is that commercial in the first place?
Well, you really can't change it now. If you wanna do
Yeah, I
we can
don't-
do
I
a
don't wanna
first
do it
reading
tonight,
tonight,
but
you
yeah.
know. If we wanna do the first reading based upon the recommendations, we still don't have to pass it on the second one on the 30th. Or you can either wait and think more about it on the 30th, but then we have to hold it over for another month, so.
And he's holding on this is a renovation he wants to do.
He's been wanting to do it for 2 or 3 months, and it's been put off and put off and put off.
Cause we had to find out the right way to do it.
Right.
Well, go ahead then.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve it, ordinance 1821
On the first reading.
on first reading.
Alright, all in favor? Opposed? No. Okay, now we have a TEP. Is that right? Yep. Okay, resolution authorizing the town of Monteagle to participate in a public entities partner grant, which is,
Whoa, here it is.
up to $5,000, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right, Tim? 3,000 for safety equipment, and this goes to what? Fire and police, or just police? It's just for police. So we just need to approve. The resolution will be one reading. That's the grant that we'll just be receiving. It has to go through a resolution.
Make a resolution, approve resolution or
03-21. Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right. Alderman. Is that where we're at now, Deb? Yes, I think we went through all those things. Alderman?
All right. Y'all bear with me, I know this has been a long meeting, but I wanna talk about beer.
I'm talking about beer.
Beer.
Yeah.
All right. Make sure I'm talking about the right thing here. So what I've brought up before you is our current code. Uh-oh. And give me just a second, because I wanna make sure I'm talking right. All right, what you guys are looking at is Monteagle Municipal Code, Title 8, Chapter 3, Section 309, and it deals with moral, what does it say? Let me zoom in. Sorry, this is me. It deals with interference with public health, safety, and morals, and it's prohibiting those things having to do with establishments that sell beer. And our codes, so the mayor has asked several of us to look through all our codes and try to figure out what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, what's incongruous. And what we have here is a code pertaining to the sale of beer, which prohibits the sale of beer within 300 feet of any school, residence, church, or place of public gathering, which is pretty broad. And that 300 feet, and pardon the 200 because I was doodling on it, that's the only copy I had. So the current ordinance says 300 feet. And the ordinance says that that is to be measured from boundary line to boundary line. So the way that ordinance is currently written, as far as I can tell, pretty much every place except for the smokehouse is out of compliance. Because, places like Pilot that sell beer, well, they've got Mr. Moon right behind them. So if you measure from boundary line to boundary line, they're out. Papa Ron's is too close to the church. The liquor store, which sells beer now, is too close to the church. And there was a lot of confusion about this because there's a separate ordinance about liquor stores. Mm-hmm. And liquor stores have to be, I think it's 200 feet away, but it's measured door to door. Mm-hmm. So the liquor store across the street from the church is legal to sell liquor, but not to sell beer.
Papa Ron's is too.
And Papa Ron's is
Yeah.
currently legal to sell liquor, but not to sell beer. And it's just, the ordinance doesn't make any sense. And the problem came to us because Rennet and Rhine, which sells wine, it's a new restaurant in town that sells wine. It's perfectly legal for them to sell wine, but they are right next to a church, so they can't sell beer. They're actually far enough away from that church to be a liquor store, but they can't sell beer.
Because it's the 200 feet from door to door.
Because liquor stores measures from door to door, and beer is measured from property line to property line. So, in talking with Sam, who's the attorney, and trying to figure out what the best way to harmonize this is, I would like to make a motion that we amend Title 8, Chapter 3, Section 309, to reduce the distance from 300 feet to 200 feet, and to change the way we measure it from property line to property line to door to door.
And it's actually front door to front door. It's
front
not
door to
side
front
to
door
door.
to
You
front
have to
door.
do entrance to entrance is, I think, the terminology. Because
I really, can I do it and just give it to you?
well, I don't know. Can we do it tonight, or do we have to? Do we need to review it first?
I mean, if it's better to get Sam involved, if
I'd rather
everybody's in
get
agreement.
them tasked and to look at it. Let's get them tasked, because if you've already written it, they could probably say yes or no.
Well, Sam looked at it, so I sent Sam an email with the language, and
Okay.
he said, yeah, go with that.
Yeah. So let's have it on the 30th if you don't care. Then we're gonna do it 2 weeks from that, because that way we don't have it in the packet or have the chance to look at it.
Okay, I will do that then.
But I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah.
It needs to be done.
Because it's right, and they've mentioned it
Yeah.
several times, because we need to be consistent, and we're not. And how can you sell whiskey? I mean, you can sell whiskey, but I can't sell you beer. You know,
Right.
come on, let's go figure that one out. You know.
Okay,
that's-
so we'll have it ready to do with the whole thing.
Okay.
Thank you guys for listening. It's been a long meeting, I know.
Yeah, but we're trying to get down a little earlier. But, you got anything else? Alan?
No.
Jessica? Doreen? We do have, and we are gonna have this online, anybody that wants it, there is gonna be an auction. This has been advertised. It's gonna be equipment, there is minimum bids on it. It's gonna be cars, trucks, different things, and that will be August the 28th. It will begin at 10 p.m. There will be an auctioneer there. Anybody that's interested in attending, come and attend. And then if we don't get minimum bids, it will go on the government website for sale. So, but there will be a list available. I know there's a Tahoe, there's a Charger, there's a Ford Ranger, there's another Ford truck, there's another Dodge van, there's a John Deere Gator, a dump truck, and a military trailer. So that's some of the items if anybody wants to come to an auction. It'll be available. We do have Employee Day for the employees, which is scheduled. Town hall will be closed on September the 10th. All the council's here. We had 2,500 in the budget. The food is coming in under that, and then we'll work on the rest of some kind of gift for the employees for that day and whatever events. Deb, is there anything else?
What we do with the no justice thing here?
Well, Karen and them are back here. If they want to come up, since you have these, do you want
I
to?
just thought y'all might like some information, what's been going on for the last couple of years, so.
Okay, and so this is just what,
That means, yeah, that was fiscal year 1920, fiscal year 2019, 2020 is the pictures. And the other one is for this past fiscal year that just ended.
well, let me ask you one question, because this came up today in grants and stuff we were looking at. Since we're 3 counties, well, 2 counties plus, is this numbers with Monteagle residents, or is this, do you have a list of Monteagle residents that outside of the Monteagle area, or is this just at large?
This is at large.
So it could be anywhere,
It could be anybody that's got a library card from Monteagle.
That's what I'm saying, but they can live anywhere for
They
it.
can
So
live
it's
anywhere.
not just a Monteagle service for the residents. I'm just curious.
No,
about the
it's
numbers.
not. We allow people from Franklin County.
Well, I mean, you should. That's what I'm
And
saying.
then we allow people that own homes at the assembly that are here part of the year and.
Yeah, but that's in the.
Yeah,
that's
but they're
Monteagle.
still, yeah.
That's in the corporate city limits. I'm talking about, this could be Tracy, Altamont,
Yes.
Jasper, anywhere.
Well, yes.
So I mean, it doesn't matter. This is the total number. I'm just wondering how your numbers are accumulated and
But
what
it
comes from.
is, it's the total numbers. Whoever has a library card at the library, you
Yeah.
have to have a library card.
And
Yeah,
that, just to be clear, that helps us, so when
Yeah.
people come from outside the city limits to So check out books from our library, that goes into how the funding for the library is allocated, right?
And do you get your funding, I know you get it, do you get it from your library board for this, for your numbers?
We get no funding from the library board.
So where do you get your funding, just federal funding?
We
And
get
what we
federal and
contribute?
state funding for our books. We get, funding from y'all for the building and part of my salary, funding from Grundy and Marion for part of my salary. The rest of the money that's spent at the library is raised by the library.
And that's one of the things while you're talking about, they mentioned today you wanted to do your yard sales that you didn't get to, and I think they said sometime in September, so if you can get with the office and find out when it's not scheduled.
Okay.
Then to coordinate that, cause they keep a schedule on that area, under the pavilion, right?
Or also with donations too. We get lots of nice donations at the library, so.
Okay, well, however y'all want to handle it, just get with them so they can get the information, and they
Okay.
can schedule that. You know,
We
so-
can do it.
Yeah. Oh, we're not done yet. I know we'll do that in just a minute. Okay, the other thing I will let you know today, Beth Jones met with, Craig and myself, Debbie and myself, and John and myself, because of the American Recovery Act. There is going to be funding, again, we don't know how it's gonna be allocated, so we're gonna be prepared for infrastructure. Jesus. I don't know who's got it, but for infrastructure grants, for tourism grants, for water and sewer grants, of course, roads, it doesn't look like anything there, fire and police, anything that will be available, they're preparing information to get it there. It becomes similar to stimulus money did with the sewer plant. They will help us administer it for a minimum fee to where all the federal and state paperwork is done correctly, but it comes out of that. But as we move farther along with these things and know what's going on, then we'll, of course, be bringing it before the board in meeting to get those things done. So that's where that status is, but we're planning for the money that's gonna be released for those. We are getting one grant, we're actually, you are aware of it, but is it ARC funds? We did get ARC grant, but we have to wait till they make the announcement for the amount, but we actually have the paperwork that we're, and Deb had a meeting last week about how that money has to be administered, so we'll be announcing that hopefully on the August the 30th, how much that was, but it's a nice little grant we got for the sewer plant.
Oh, and did we figure out, is one of us gonna take the training for that?
Deb is working on it, and one of us is gonna do it,
I
but
think
she,
it's the 25th, right?
no, the 20th.
Of August.
I don't think. I will look at that date again. And we do have our first planning session, which is being administered by Southeastern Development next Wednesday, all day for the council. But we're starting, and then, once we get through that, I think it is the 25th, no, that's the 25th training.
Is when the planning is. Maybe I'm getting the two things.
Yeah, I
confused.
think you are, because Deb was looking at dates for the one for the Mountain Goat
Okay.
today, and she was gonna get those. So, but that's where it is as far as this, and then the final thing is citizens hearing. How many citizens that wanna be heard?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Well, we have one other thing here before you adjourn. We do have, and we'll get her to come back at the August 30th meeting if you can. This is the owner of the accounting firm we use, Melissa, so it's putting a face with Melissa with the MG3. And if we had questions tonight, referring to her, but if you could come back, we'll let you, when it's not quite a long meeting, but we have a lot to address. But we appreciate you being here and what you do for us, and what you will be doing for us. So, you have a motion to adjourn now?
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
It's nobody's fault.
All in favor?